Welcome back. Let's talk. Till last week, we saw about understanding emotions and how to practice emotion regulation. This week, shall we try to understand some nuances common to all relationships? You would have observed that in my previous talks, over the last few weeks, I would have used some words repeatedly, like pattern, cycle, and so on. So, what are these? With respect to relationships, and it applies to all relationships like husband and wife, parent child, employer employee, or even among friends, the interaction between all these relationships function on the basis of circular causality, that is, it works more like a cycle. Let's try to understand this through an example. Client came for therapy. Let's call him Suresh. He came with the problems of feeling excessive anger and work-related anxiety. Suresh had joined that company only recently and he had moved from his previous firm because there was better salary and perks here. During therapy, he shared that in his previous company, he had a good name. No one found fault with his performance. But in this new firm, there was a slight difference. Suresh felt that his immediate manager, the person to whom he reports, and who is in charge of his appraisal and promotion recommendations and so on, that person was being very watchful of his performance, like constantly observing, being very vigilant. And this created a lot of anxiety in Suresh. So, as a result of this, even normally, what work Suresh would do very efficiently, he started committing mistakes. Or whenever he had to make a presentation in front of this manager, he would stumble, stammer, and not perform to the best of his abilities. He will not be able to answer the manager's questions confidently. And what happened? So when the manager saw that Suresh was ill at ease during presentations and was repeatedly committing errors in his work, he became even more watchful and vigilant of him. The effect of this was that Suresh's anxiety increased, and its effect was that his mistakes also increased. And as a result, his manager called him at one point of time and pointing out all his, the faults that gave him a warning. So when Suresh came for therapy, he was quite unhappy with his company, with his manager. He was getting annoyed at small things, even at home. He was undergoing a lot of stress. He could not concentrate on his work. And he was making more mistakes in his work than ever. Now, do you see how one cause here, the manager's critical approach, has several effects, and how several effects has one cause, that is Suresh's anxiety. But usually, how would we look at this? If we are looking at this only from Suresh's point of view, then I would say the manager is being very vigilant, I'm watching my every move like a hawk, is being very critical of only my work, and I have lost my confidence because of him. I have developed anxiety because of this. And so we would blame the manager entirely for Suresh's condition. Suresh also felt the same. Suppose we are looking at this from the manager's point of view. Then I would think Suresh is a new employee. It's my duty to measure his performance. And after I've observed him for a while, then only I gave him a warning, but he hasn't changed for the better, right? Therefore, I have to be all the more watchful of him. But what's the truth? It's not simply that A caused B. The truth is that A causes B and B also causes A, or it perpetuates A. And so the cycle continues. That is, Suresh's anxiety and subsequent deficiency in performance causes the manager's critical approach, and that in turn causes Suresh's anxiety, which in turn causes more mistakes, and so the cycle continues. So in any relationship, it's thus a case of mutual influence. and not just one causes the other, or there is just one cause to a problem or something to blame on, to fix the blame on. So if we had asked only why Suresh is getting anxiety, we would obviously blame the manager, saying he is causing anxiety to Suresh, and we would be looking at solutions for that, which probably would not stop the cycle from happening. And it would continue. That is, a manager continuing to be watch Suresh very critically, and Suresh getting more and more intimidated by the manager and doing more and more errors. Instead, if we look at what is happening between the two, what is the mutual influence that one causes on the other, then only we can break the cycle. So instead of asking why, we need to ask what is happening between the two. So if Suresh's anxiety is to reduce, this cycle is to be broken. There are two ways of doing this. One is that the manager stops being so guarded towards Suresh, realizing that his approach is causing Suresh anxiety, and that if given a more relaxed and healthy space to perform his duties, Suresh would actually do that. Or else Suresh, understanding that even if the manager is watching my performance closely and critically, I will work on myself not to get anxious, but do my natural work. If Suresh were to think that the manager is the cause of all my problems, the cycle will not be broken. And let me explain why this is very important to understand for the well-being of Suresh. For this, we need to look at where all in his life this kind of cycle had been repeating, had become a pattern too. So, although in his previous job, Suresh had no issues, the job he was in before that, he had similar problems. But instead of the manager, it was a competition he faced from his colleagues. That caused Suresh a lot of anxiety. That was a very, very competitive place, and everyone used to work unmindful of late hours, literally sleep in the office, sweating it out for all to get the good appraisal and promotions. Suresh compared himself with others, and he feared that he may not get a good appraisal, or he may even lose his job in this competitive place. And this naturally caused Suresh anxiety, and what work he would otherwise normally do very well also, he could not complete on time. He kept procrastinating, as a result of which his project manager in that company had a talk with him. He pointed out all this created more anxiety in him. He lost motivation and interest in his work. He started taking more days off, and he kept postponing deadlines till at one point of time he lost his work. Before that, although nothing significant happened in his college days, but during his school days, if you see, whenever he got a very strict teacher, for a subject, he would automatically develop anxiety about that subject. He would start avoiding it, which would result in the teacher becoming more strict with him, more harsh, or sometimes even humiliating or dismissive of him, which again caused more and more avoidance of the subject in Suresh. And there also he would blame only the teacher for everything. See how this cycle has become a pattern in his life. So only if Suresh understands this cycle and pattern, he would stop blaming others entirely for his problem and start working on handling his anxiety, and thereby improve his performance even if the situations are challenging. He understood this during therapy and through a lot of relaxation exercises and certain lifestyle changes, and also certain changes in thought process. He was able to work on his anxiety, reduce it, and able to maintain his quality of work even under the watchful eyes of his manager. So whatever be the challenges outside, if we understand what is happening between the two in any relationship, and we recognize the cycles and the patterns, Then we can work on not getting ourselves anxious about things and help break negative cycles like this. So, next week we shall see how such cycles and patterns create unpleasantness in our personal lives too.